So you're
So
from
maybe
the
other.
Northwest as well, Annika?
Yes, I am from Bellingham, Washington.
Okay, wonderful. And Maggie, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Canada, Vancouver, BC.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
in
Oh,
about an hour
Vancouver.
west of Toronto, Maggie.
Wonderful. You guys still have lots of snow, right?
Oh, we do. Yeah, we sure do. Toronto especially.
Yeah.
And I think Danielle and Annika, they're not far from you either, just south of the border there.
Very close. In fact, my family's from Vancouver Island.
Awesome.
Oh,
It's a beautiful
yeah.
Yep.
place.
Yeah.
No snow
Cobble
yet
Hill.
this year.
Well, nice to have. We've got a good international representation. And there's Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hello, Sue. You're on mute there, Sue, if you wanted to say hello.
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button.
No
Good to see
worries.
you both. Excited to be here.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks
glad
for
you could
joining us.
join us. Yeah.
Good Pacific Northwest representation here, Douglas. Got to get you caught up with some East Coasters here.
Yeah, I'm the odd man out here, I think so. Well, we'll give it another minute and then I think we'll get going. I know everybody's time is valuable, so we'll try to stick to our timeline and just see if a few more registrants come up here. Are you everyone here Olympic fans? Do you watch the sports or don't bother?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Olympic fans, and then of course the big news in the Seattle area has been our Seattle Seahawks.
Of
That was
course,
the
they
focus
beat my New
yesterday.
England
Yeah,
Patriots.
Yes, downtown
yeah.
was craziness. I stayed home and watched it from the comfort of my living room, but there
Uh,
were thousands and thousands and thousands of people downtown.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
And now there's
Oh.
blue and
It's,
green confetti all over the streets.
uh, well, that's quite an accomplishment. All right, let's kick it off and get underway here. I'll try and watch my screen just in case we get any late arrivals. Just bear with me a second here.
Boy, I'll tell you, navigating all this technology, the slideshow and the double screens and the sharing.
That's
All
a
right,
feat
can
all in
everybody see
all in of
the
itself.
slide, the start slide workforce workplace issues? We're good to go?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I think first of all, let me say thank you for taking time to join us today. This is really an interactive discussion, I would hope, and Danielle and I have some thoughts and ideas we'd like to present. But by all means, if you have a comment or something that you'd like to add, please jump in. We're
Mhm.
uh, we're by no means the end all and be all when it comes to these things, and we do value everyone's input. So, all right.
Yes.
So maybe just a little bit about myself and my background. I actually started my career many years ago in the food industry, and from there went on to sales in chemicals and fine chemicals. In the early 2000s, I started a recognition kind of reward business with some family members. And from there, it evolved into an employee engagement work for about 15 years with a partner. And then for the last 3 to 4 years, it has been managed to retain. And the managed to retain company was founded on the principle that often managers lack the resources and the tools necessary to really understand their role in the retention process, but also have maybe the skill set and the processes and the tools to improve retention. And they're sometimes thrown into leadership positions in a sink or swim mentality. And I think with today's changing dynamic, and we'll talk a little bit about that, um, it's not easy being a manager. I think
Mm-mm.
it can be quite difficult, and we'll chat a little bit further about this as we progress. So that's really what's brought us here today is really the focus on retention and absenteeism and some of the workforce challenges. So Danielle, maybe you can explain a little bit about your background and experience.
Yeah, hello. I'm Dr. Danielle Lord, and this is all I've ever done. My entire 34-year career, I can't believe I'm saying 34-year career, has been in this work, primarily in the healthcare sector. And I certainly have seen a lot of the same things that Douglas referred to in his introduction, is that we throw these people into management positions, and it just is a cascading effect of pain. And that's my whole why I continue to do this work, is because I want to help alleviate the pain and frustration that comes from really bad management. And, oftentimes it's not the fault of the individuals who get put into those roles. They really do not come in with a toolkit that's going to help them or their team members succeed. And so that's where a lot of my passion is giving folks the tools. And sometimes that can be painful for the managers who are like, I've done this for 10 years. I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. And so, how do we lessen the burden for everybody and help everyone feel successful in the organization? So that's a little bit about me and my why. So
Thanks very much, Danielle. You've certainly got a wealth of experience there. So as we mentioned, I think let's first touch on some of the workplace challenges and changes that we see out there in the business world or in the healthcare sector. It really doesn't matter. They're pretty much across the board. But I would say over the last 5 years, we've really seen many changes in the workplace, and they're driven a lot by societal change and people's values and beliefs. And we're certainly seeing efforts for more inclusion, commitment to developing the required skills, creating more rewarding employee work experiences to attract and retain talent, constant change in the marketplace, tariff and trade wars. I mean, the list goes on. And then, of course, you add on that, you've got technology advances, 5 generations in the workplace now that all have a different maybe approach to work or different values and beliefs. I think it's a constantly changing environment. You've got changing roles and responsibilities, and all of this kind of puts added stress and pressure, I think, on people in general. And that's another area that's growing and increasing is mental health, stress, burnout issues. And so I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Danielle, or.
yeah, thanks, Douglas. I would add, we can't overlook COVID. And that was really a global trauma that most of us found it traumatic in some way. And I think we're really seeing it in the younger generation. And that is a whole other topic, I think, but something we can't overlook. And you have changing roles and responsibilities. And the first word I caught was change. The other pattern or trend that I'm seeing is this notion that somehow CEOs want to leave a legacy. And I hear that frequently. Well, I need to leave a legacy. It's like, well, you can leave a legacy of change and frustration, or you can leave a legacy where people feel whole and healthy and excited to come to work and support your goals and help you be successful and profitable. So I think it's an odd trend, but I think it's creating a lot of confusion with the constant change that's happening as executives are trying to leave some mark on something.
Yeah, well said. So at the same time as the changing workplaces, we are certainly seeing changing workforce needs and demands. And I'm sure everyone here is well aware of declining employee engagement levels. Turnover and absenteeism are on the rise. And, it seems many times younger generations are more interested in meeting their own needs perhaps than meeting organizational needs. And, for many senior leaders, this shift is really driving some costly issues. It's creating performance challenges, it's creating weak teamwork, absenteeism, stress leaves, and mounting operational expenses. And, we're now seeing workplace changes where employees are asking for and demanding more to help them achieve their goals and their career objectives. We're starting to see more interest in having work-life balance and the opportunity to work from home to avoid lengthy commutes. And they want more purpose and meaning in their work. They want to feel appreciated and valued for their contributions and efforts. And I wanted to read a quote here from the Work Institute. And they say that what makes this emerging workforce so challenging is that workers behave in very individual ways. And they are very individualistic in their priority they place on these preferences and expectations. In the past, employers sought to drive retention and engagement at an organizational level, but to engage and retain employees now depends on the individual employee. So today, it is not so much the enterprise or organization actions, such as compensation or wellness programs, that attract and retain talent, but more personalized experiences. Today's emerging employee requires much more. They require to be treated as an individual, and they feel empowered to demand certain preferences and expectations based on their priorities. And here's the catch: they can. Other examples where we have seen this include, I'm sure everyone has done some shopping on Amazon, and whatever you're searching for and whatever you buy, Amazon is trying to customize that buying experience by offering other things that align with your needs. So, any further comments there, Danielle? Or
Yeah, I think you made so many good points. I'm always talking about the quality of relationships within the workplace, and I see that just continuing to erode. And as much as we say we don't want to work to live, it is a necessity in our world. And I think when we are spending 40 hours a week in a workplace environment, the quality of relationships really does matter. I think there's a lot of healthy things that can come from a good quality relationship versus a lot of unhealthy things that can happen when we don't have those quality relationships. But we seem to be in this business mindset that the two cannot coexist, that business is business, relationships are relationships, and never the two shall meet. And I think that that's a really odd paradigm, and we need to somehow work through that.
yeah, and it's kind of sad in a way. I mean, I
Well,
don't
it's
think
very
managers or colleagues have to be best friends, but they can certainly have a strong working relationship, one
exactly.
that's founded in trust and communication and everything else. So,
Yes.
point well
Yeah.
taken.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
this slide
professional
kind
versus
of,
the personal relationship.
right, yeah. So this slide shows the increasing cost associated with employee turnover. Again, the Work Institute reported that U.S. companies spend nearly $900 billion to replace employees who quit in 2024. So that's a little dated, but it's not that far out of whack. It's probably gone up since then. And it relates to the median wage increasing, but also the changing tides that we see out there in the work environment. So it really is a tremendous cost. And I'll just run through a couple of stats, and then I think Danielle's got a few that she wanted to share with you as well. So at the same time, LinkedIn's Workforce Confidence Survey reflected that 4 in 10 workers in the US say they're burned out on the job. Project managers have an even higher rate of burnout as those working in healthcare and social services, the report shows. And half of those workers in those roles say they're experiencing burnout. Now, this slide has a kind of a specific look at healthcare. And on the left-hand side, you'll see various categories of employees in the healthcare sector. And across the top, you'll see the impacts, the varying impacts of what they've experienced in their roles in healthcare. So, for example, the one that jumps out to me is at the bottom is nursing. And if you look at that top, you'll see that they have 67% have suffered a mental health issue. 65% made changes to work to make it more alignable with their needs. And 59% considered taking a leave of absence, and 38% took a leave of absence. So that's a pretty high statistic. I mean, when you've got 1/3 of your nursing population, this is based on survey results, that are taking a leave of absence, that affects operations, it affects costs, and it affects many things. So, any thoughts on that, Danielle? Or
No, I think it's a powerful statement of where we're at in today's
okay.
marketplace. Yeah.
And then this slide kind of puts some numbers behind absenteeism, and they indicate that $3,600 per year per hourly worker and $2,650 per salaried employee. Again, when you total that all up, along with turnover and some of the other issues, there's just tremendous cost involved. And all right, I think Danielle has a few here that I'll let you walk through, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you, Douglas. I won't go into a lot of the details around the numbers, but they're there for you to take them if as you need to. I think really the key point around this is the sense of burnout is it's not something you catch. It's not ooh, you caught burnout. It's actually symptomatic of a larger problem, and that problem is that we have some really big gaps in our organizations right now that Douglas alluded to in the previous slides. So I think really what it comes down to is that the feeling of belonging in an organization actually decreased the sense of wanting to leave by 56%. So just that feeling of belonging, which goes back to what we were talking about around the trust and the communication and the quality relationships. So when we think about, well, we don't have to have a professional relationship because it's work. It's just work, right? Just come and do your work. When we don't have that sense of belonging, we tend to see the increase in propensity to leave increase dramatically. Now, I always like to tell managers, you don't have to leave, right? We have a lot of people in our organizations who have left, but they're still there and they're collecting a paycheck and they're either passively or actively doing a lot of damage. There's been some really interesting research also correlated with this idea of warmth. So when our managers are not expressing any warmth to us, and that isn't, oh, let me give you a hug, just do whatever you want, right? This isn't the country club style of just come and do whatever you want. It's, hi, Annika, how are you today? Sue, how's your day going? Maggie, how's everything going for you? That's the warmth that they were referring to in the particular study that was done by Cuddy, Gliskin, Fick back in 2013, I think. So this idea of belonging, of feeling heard, feeling that you're in a quality relationship is really, really tantamount to workplace success. And I also want to note, Annika put in the chat, quality relationships, trust, and communication is also really dependent on role clarity. Now, role clarity, again, that's an entirely additional conversation, but role clarity is one of the number one drivers of engagement or disengagement. So really important point, Annika. Thanks for bringing that up. I've got my professor hat on today, so hopefully I'm not going off too long. Yeah, again, there's that connection to empathy, psychological safety. We're seeing 4 times the retention improvement. That was from McCall et al. So again, belonging, reducing anxiety, reducing that amygdala hijack that we tend to get caught in, and improves our overall ability to think as well. And we tend to see greater innovation and creativity. And again, just a few more numbers. You had 36% of new nurses in their first year intend to leave. My dissertation was on nursing satisfaction. And ironically, if nurses, what I found in the research was that if nurses could stay and last, literally, it was a situation of, can I make it for 5 years? Once they got past that 5-year mark, they were much likely more inclined to stay in the profession. But it oftentimes, nurses, that first year can be really, really tough because oftentimes it is that lack of connection that they feel within the organization. We hear this oftentimes with nurses, especially, well, I had to learn it the hard way, so therefore you should have to learn it the hard way as well.
Very well said. All right, so just a couple other ones, and then I want to kind of move on to the second part of the presentation. So this was a study done by DDI, and It examined trust in the workplace, and it just emphasizes how important trust is to organizational success. But the challenge here that they found from 2022 to 2024, trust in immediate managers took a dramatic nosedive from 46 to 29%. That's pretty significant. And I think without trust to operate as a manager, it becomes more difficult. It becomes more difficult to achieve goals, to build relationships, to just about do anything that you want if there's a lack of trust. So it really is a critical component. Why is it so important? Well, this slide speaks to that. Employees with managers who actively support their development are 11 times more likely to trust their manager. Employees who receive feedback from the managers are 9 times more likely to trust their manager. And employees with managers who are effective coaches are 9 times more likely to trust their manager. So again, it's important. There's no doubt about it. There's no other way to say it. Trust is critical, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you build trust as we progress. So I wanted to list kind of what we see is the top workforce challenges in today's workplace. And I think certainly in some sectors this varies, of course, but I would suggest that no organization should really be complacent in this. Everyone, I think, has to be proactive to really kind of address these issues and improve them. So you certainly see, turnover, certainly one of the top ones. Talent acquisition and labor skill shortages. I think many organizations find it more difficult to recruit talent when someone leaves. And you see that impacting operational issues, if they can't overtime and mounting and increased stress, all those things stem from not having people in place. Low engagement and productivity impacts. We talked about absenteeism, stress, and burnout. Certainly manager capability is another key area that I think is crucial. And then, of course, change management. It seems like many organizations are dealing with constant change. It's a never-ending kind of story that seeking improvement, seeking to position themselves in the marketplace, seeking to strengthen their customer or patient care, all of those things that are directly linked. So why should...
Can I jump in there with, a little bit, a couple stories? I oftentimes don't think that our executive level managers understand how much their culture, the perception of their culture follows or kind of penetrates out into the ether, if you will. So a couple of stories, really toxic culture. You think bad Glassdoor reviews are awful? Wait until somebody creates a YouTube channel that is just a parody of your organization. It actually exists. So one way that infuses your toxic culture out into the worldwide Ethernet is here's some videos, parodies that someone's done about your bad culture. So YouTube channel that does exist. Secondarily to that is someone that I've worked with in the past where we've shifted their culture to the point where it shows up on their Glassdoor reviews where they say, don't apply here if you're not serious about making a commitment, because this is an organization that is very committed to a strong culture. And if you don't want to be a part of a great culture, don't apply here. So these things trickle out into the ether and people do pick up on this. And if you do not have a strong, solid culture where all of these things are addressed, you'll reap the reward and the benefit, or not so much. You'll get that negative publicity. So it's a very real thing that culture does follow you, and people pick up on these things, they feel them, and they do talk about them.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And you can imagine the impact if you're trying to attract top talent in the workplace, and the word is getting out there on toxic culture and poor net promoter scores and these kind of things. It impacts your brand. There's no doubt about it. And conversely, as you mentioned, if organizations are committed to a desired culture that works and supports everyone, that word gets around too. And they have
Yes,
more
it does.
opportunity
Yeah.
to get, because people want to work for those organizations. So I mentioned this before. Why really should your organization care? And you have to really understand the true impacts of these things, as Danielle mentioned. But I think here's a few thoughts on this. So, um, these impacts, if you're an owner or a senior leader or even a manager in some cases, these issues cost you money. You are the ones that incur the expenses and the lost profits that result from these challenges. And, this includes achieving performance goals, minimizing expenses, realizing desired profits, competing in the marketplace. So I wanted to have a little closer look at this. Workforce stability drives business continuity impact on success. Constant recruitment, onboarding, and training drain financial and managerial resources. Service and production quality suffer. Engagement fuels productivity and innovation. Impact on success. Engagement gaps lead to missed targets, poor customer service, and stifled innovation. Talent shortages limit growth. An impact on success is if an organization cannot attract or retain skilled talent, it loses opportunities for growth, new product development, patient care expansion. And manager capability determines culture impact on success. Poor management drives attrition, disengagement, and as Danielle mentioned, toxic cultures. Strong managers build trust, resilience, and commitment that directly affects results. And lastly, financial outcomes are tied to workplace health impact on success. Poor workforce well-being increases cost, overtime, insurance replacement, and reduces output. So these are real problems and real issues, and they really require strategy to build the effective solutions that I think can make a difference. I wanted
Yeah.
to take yeah, my apologies. I did want to.
No, that's quite all right. If I can weigh in a little bit on that last slide as well. I think one thing that we oftentimes don't think about, we think about the business impacts, right? But we oftentimes overlook the community and the societal impacts. So if we have that toxic culture, and we have some of those things that Douglas was alluding to with the bad leadership bandwidth, and we have the higher turnover, we have the loss of innovation, but we also see an increase in complacency and that emotional drag that comes with that complacency, that comes with that toxicity from bad managers. And we take that home. And we take that home to our family members, and then our family members begin to feel that. And then we start to take it out into the community. And now suddenly we have an entire community that is feeling all of this yuck of living in this swamp of complacency. So I think that's one way in which we have these greater societal impacts around this. But I also think about the business in the small community that is the sole provider or the sole employer in a community. And I think particularly rural hospitals, where they are the primary employer in the community. If that employer goes down, you've got now a huge financial impact within the entire community because you've lost the primary workplace.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. So I've done a little bit of research in this area, and I wanted to kind of share this with you, kind of the science behind employee retention, so to speak. So one of the things I looked at is, people did some research on people making decisions and these kind of things, and across psychology and behavioral economics, and leadership science, and other research, one principle continually shows up, and that is people act in alignment with their own needs, motivations, interests, and goals, not the organizations, not HRs, and not the managers. And employees invest what I would call their best effort and remain loyal when doing so meets their needs, aligns with their values, supports their well-being, advances their goals, and generates positive emotions. Now, this relates more to emotions, and the comparison between making decisions that are based on emotions and feelings, or are we making decisions based on rationale and logic? And Antonio Damasio's groundbreaking research, I'll read this to you quickly. He said that emotions are critical to decision making through his studies of patients with damage to the emotional centers of the brain. And I'll see if I can pronounce this properly, the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. And these individuals could reason logically, but they could not make even simple decisions like where to eat. Damasio concluded that emotion is essential to rationality. His concept of somatic markers, bodily emotional responses, shows how feelings guide people towards beneficial choices and away from harmful ones. And the second one I wanted to quote to you is we looked at the behavioral economics work by Danielle Kahneman and Amos Tversky. They've done significant work in this area. And Daniel Kahneman, I'm probably butchering his name again, is a Nobel Prize winner. And his book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And he researched and stated that we have basically two systems of thinking. System one is fast, emotional, intuitive. And system two is slow, deliberate, and logical. And he concluded that most decisions, even seemingly rational ones, are made using system one, driven by intuition, emotions, and mental health shortcuts. So why is this important? Because I think when we look at people calling in sick or deciding they want to work somewhere else, we have to understand that emotions play a role. They play a key role in those decisions. So when you step back from that and kind of try and analyze it, I think there's two key things you have to focus on. Organizational work to cultivate positive emotions in the workplace. Things like feeling valued and appreciated, trust in their manager and colleagues, recognition, opportunities for growth and learning, working with purpose and meaning. And Danielle, do you want to add anything to these as well, or?
Yes, I do. Emotional intelligence is key. And that Annika's a mindfulness coach, so Annika will appreciate this. But that ability to step back, and Sue as well, with the work that you do with positive psychology, that ability to step back, pause, reflect, and think through things so that we can make those better decisions rather than that decision that occurs from that emotional or amygdala hijack. The other piece that I would add to this is, research that was done by Goldman and Biotsis on mirror neurons, and it's always hard to say that, but their work indicated that we emulate behavior we're exposed to over time. So if we have managers that are constantly showing up in that negative space, they're constantly showing up and being mean, cutting, denigrating, inappropriate behavior, we continue to see that behavior rewarded, that's the behavior that we're going to begin to emulate because of these tiny things in our brains called mirror neurons. And so we're going to pick up on that and we're going to emulate that same behavior. So again, you start to get this whole toxic yuck of complacency and negativity within your workplace. And I always say complacency is a contagion, but it comes from this very fact that we have one or two people who are not behaving in a way that supports positive emotions, and suddenly we're all picking up on it. And if you've ever experienced what it's like, we're like, wow, why am I so negative all of a sudden? Oh, because I'm hanging out with negative people. Maybe I'm even listening to music that has a negative tone. So these things all really do impact us emotionally. And I think it's really something to be aware of, particularly when we think about it from this idea of emotional intelligence and what's going on in the brain, the neuroscience of mindfulness and positive thinking.
Yeah, thank you. So in addition to cultivating positive emotions, we have to work collectively to try and reduce negative emotions. Things like lack of appreciation, micromanagement or lack of support, toxic peer culture or isolation, unclear expectations. I think, was it Annika or Sue maybe mentioned that earlier about how important it is for role clarity. And then, of course, feeling overworked and emotional exhaustion. Any other thoughts there, Danielle? Or
No, I think I'm good. But yeah,
okay.
they show up.
Yeah. So I always like to look at, why do people even work? And of course, they have to work. We all recognize that. But ultimately, it's really about meeting their needs and their expectations in the workplace. And, everyone has their own reasons. Of course, there's financial needs, there's family and lifestyle needs, there's personal needs, there's intrinsic needs, there's growth and development needs, there's relationship needs, there's purpose and meaning. I mean, the list goes on. But I think the more we can meet those needs and expectations, the stronger position we're going to be in. Um, any thoughts on that one, Danielle? Or
It's a great point that you bring up that we do all bring unique needs into the workplace. And I think that, again, with this idea that business and humanity have to somehow be separate, two separate things, it's important to understand knowing who your team members are, so you know them well enough to recognize when they're starting to go into a place of negativity, perhaps. So really getting to know, and that goes back to the relationship, right? So really getting to know your team members, so you know if they're extroverted, if they're introverted, when they're having a good day, when they're not having a good day. And I've always said, if you have 50 employees and you treat them all the same way, you're likely to have 49 unhappy ones.
yeah,
Great story from one of my consulting clients. And she said there was a difficult decision that needed to be made within the organization. And so she told me, well, I did it. I had the conversation. I waited until I knew she was in a good mood. And I thought, that's amazing that you as a manager recognize or can recognize that when you have employees that are having a good day and not having so much of a good day, right? So we know when, how to strategically have some of those conversations, or at least recognize it, and then see if we can intervene somehow to help solve a problem or create a better environment so that they can actually try and have a better emotional response in the moment.
yeah. Well said. I'll add a little bit to that. I think that the key point I want to make here is that there's no real one size fits all when it comes to employees. And I think corporate programs and even HR programs often are designed company-wide, and they've got some excellent programs. They typically manage compensation and wellness and EAP and those kind of things. But the personal and individual needs and expectations are unique, and they're different, and they're distinct to every employee. So it becomes more about tailoring and customizing the employee experience to support their needs and their pursuits. And this is difficult to achieve from a corporate or even an HR strategy, as they don't have the direct interaction with the employees. So the reality is that everyone has a role to play. And I think that owners and senior executives need to provide the resources. They provide the budgets, of course. They often set goals for what's expected and what they want to achieve. And they need to make employee retention a priority for the organization. And then you have human resources, and certainly they're very active. They help design programs, monitor talent trends, conduct survey, arrange training, those kind of things. Yet I wanted to talk about managers for a moment because they're really the heart of employee retention. Through their strong relationships, clear communication, meaningful work, and proactive support, they create an environment where employees feel valued, engaged, and motivated to stay. Organizations that prioritize training and development for managers see a tangible improvement in employee retention. And Gallup data suggests that organizations with highly engaged teams experience 59% lower turnover. Pretty impressive. So managers are in the strongest position to influence, impact, understand, and support the unique personal needs and interests of their employees because they work with them on a day-to-day basis. And this close proximity allows managers to build trust and rapport, creating an environment where employees feel comfortable sharing their personal needs and career aspirations. And through regular communications, managers can tailor support to each individual, ensuring that people feel valued and understood. And lastly, I think they're in the strongest position of everyone to impact the employee work experience through things like one-on-one interactions, recognizing and appreciating employees, providing regular performance feedback, all those kind of things that really have a tremendous impact. Any further thoughts, Danielle, or I'll flip to maybe the next slide?
Yeah, so the one-to-ones, I can't stress enough how important those are. And I think they're the first thing to come off of a busy manager's daily or weekly, monthly schedule or calendar. And I think a lot of times managers don't understand or see the value of them, or they treat them as just yet another meeting to accomplish tasks. And so in my book, Engaging Your Employees, I call it the organizational date because it is that opportunity to deepen and strengthen the relationship between the employee and the manager, to get to know one another. So again, you can pick up on some of those social cues and to understand aspirations, give corrective feedback, and make and have celebrations over accomplishments, no matter how big or small. Gotta get those celebrations in there. So one-to-ones are crucial. I oftentimes see managers saying, well, I'm going to multitask while we have our one-to-one, or I'm going to ignore it. We're not going to have it. And they're just so crucial. And make them fun, make them light. They don't always have to be serious, and tick through the tasks. I think it's a crucial opportunity to really get to know one another. I think the other thing that I'd add to, Douglas, and hopefully I'm not premature in this because we did chat about this a little bit, but we all, I think one of the things that is a huge stressor for managers right now is that they just have this constant litany of tasks and things coming at them. And that is the thing that makes, what am I going to do today? Right? It's easy for me to cancel the one-to-one because I have all these things that I need to accomplish. So our managers are feeling the stress of the weight of all of these tasks. So how do we as team members support one another? By making sure that we're helping to create a positive work environment, but also how do we support our managers? My goodness, they need support and a little love as well, because they've got a tough load to carry. So
No,
there you
that's
go.
a valid point, and we'll talk a little further about that. So the daily work environment and culture are really the strongest predictors of whether employees feel valued, connected, and supported. And those feelings directly drive their decisions to stay or leave often. So while pay benefits attract people to organizations, it's the everyday interactions with managers and peers and their work roles and responsibilities and the workplace culture that sustain engagement and reduce turnover. A positive daily experience fosters trust, it fosters pride and belonging. And while a negative one creates stress, disengagement, and higher absenteeism, making culture and environment the cornerstone. So really, these day-to-day experiences are the cornerstone of solving workforce challenges, in our opinion. Any further thoughts there, Danielle? Or?
Yeah, no, I just to think about the difference between I'm so excited to go to work today versus, oh my gosh, I can't. I'm idling in the parking lot and I just can't dare to park and turn my car off.
It happens a lot, I'm sure. And
it does.
so again, just further on the day-to-day experience, it's really the foundation of employee satisfaction and retention. It's shaped by, of course, their managers and their colleagues and their work role. But I think we've talked a little bit about that. It's that immediate environment that they work in, their day-to-day roles. They're not often talking to the corporate VP or the CEO. They're not interacting with HR every day. The people that they work with daily create that experience and it's where they live and breathe in terms of their experience. So I think that top-down strategies can be important. Corporate programs certainly play a role. HR programs play a role. But I also think it's crucial to have a bottom-up strategy that shifts retention from being the responsibility of senior executives in HR all the time to a shared responsibility owned by managers, employees, and teams. And by focusing on relationships and communications and daily work experiences, organizations can create the environment where employees choose to stay because they feel valued, supported, and connected. So I had a few notes here about managers, and I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna kind of, Danielle touched a little bit on this with the one-on-ones and those kind of things. So I think we'll flip through. So one slide here about what today's employees are seeking. They want, as Danielle mentioned earlier, connectedness and belonging. They want career growth opportunities and development opportunities. They want to work with purpose and meaning. I think we all do. They want to feel valued and appreciated for their contributions and efforts. And they want a rewarding work experience in general. Now, Danielle, I know you've got a few thoughts here, but this really kind of helps bring home why and how managers are so important to that employee experience. And I hope you can read some of that. I won't going to read that verbatim or anything, but it talks about the impact on engagement, the career growth, psychological safety, and so on. Danielle, I know you had a few thoughts here on this one, I think.
I do. Yeah. I've got someone close to me who's going through something pretty awful right now, but I want to recognize the comment that Sue made in the chat. For every one negative encounter, emotion, comment, etc., research shows that it takes 5 positive ones to overcome the effects of one negative interaction or encounter. So I just wanted to call that out, as that's a really great reminder, Sue, that we get stuck in that space of the negativity. But to highlight everything that you're talking about too, Douglas, is those interactions are so crucial. I know someone right now they have a very toxic supervisor, and there's always comments like, this is a group of men where there's comments like, oh, don't forget your lipstick, or just constant berating, even asking a question or making a suggestion. I'm seeing this more and more as well, aside from the example. Making a suggestion is somehow now seen as argumentative. So when we say that we have a program where all your voice matters, or we need your opinion to be in the state of constant improvement, yet you have an employee who brings something up and you're labeled argumentative, or in the case of a lot of times physicians, they get labeled disruptive, when in fact they could just not have any other or know any other way in order to get their thought, their idea, their expertise heard. And how challenging and frustrating that is for employees who just want to do their best work. They want to get that recognition. They want to feel that they have career growth opportunities, and they're told they're argumentative or their experience doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a shame, really. Okay, this is just kind of further things. And again, I thought you might have had something to add here as well, Danielle. Anything you can think of, or? It's just further to that last slide on the importance of manager and employee relations, and maybe you mentioned it already, so.
Yeah, probably nothing more than I haven't pontificated on over the last 45 minutes, but it really is key. And I think one thing I constantly go back to, and we put people into the role of manager without any formal development or understanding, they get stressed. Right? They're in that space of stress now because their work is changing. They're now added to more meetings. They now have all this whole new language that they're having to figure out. For me, it's always been finance, but they're now in a state of stress, and the pressure keeps building and building and building. And so what do? They revert back to the work that they know. And because they're in that state of stress, They don't ask for input from others. They don't ask for others to share in the responsibility. And so now we're getting into what I call role compression. So you HR folks know what wage compression is. Role compression is this idea that as the managers take on the work that they have previously done, those that should be doing that work are suddenly feeling compressed and into less effective roles, and again, not being able to share their own expertise and bring their input. So,
Yeah, I think these are definitely real issues, and managers are definitely getting squeezed. They seem to have the senior executive and the ownership group that is pushing for results and performance objectives and these kind of things. And of course, it's important. And then they have employee difficulties with things like turnover and absenteeism and different generations and working from home and so on. I always think, and we've talked a lot about this, how important it is for managers to get to know their employees. But I also feel it's important for senior leaders to get to know their managers because, like Danielle suggested, they need support and they need resources and they need help to achieve their own goals as well as the organization's goals and meet employees' needs. It's not a magic button that you push and it's already there. It takes time and it takes support to really develop those leadership skills. And Danielle had talked a little bit about the power of one-on-one, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on there, but I agree wholeheartedly with what she said. This is a real opportunity to get to know employees a little bit more on a personal level, know what their aspirations are, know what their challenges and frustrations are, know where support might be available, know how to kind of recognize and appreciate the efforts, and you can discuss performance objectives. There's a lot that can be achieved in one-on-ones, and I think it's probably one of the single most powerful ways to build relationships, strong relationships and trust with your employees. But anything further to add to that one, Danielle? Or?
No, I think we're good. Just make sure you get those one-to-ones in. And let them be fun. I always say no, and then suddenly a story pops into my head. So when I was working for reporting to a guy, and he demanded that I bring an agenda. So I had to come with an agenda. It had to be typed up and prepared. And then he would proceed to criticize the font that I used or the size of the font. And then he would rip up or throw away the agenda that I had to do to bring to the meeting. And then he'd proceed to give me his laundry list of task delegation types of things. So don't be that guy. I won't say his name.
All right, we're just winding down here now, but I wanted to cite one study that I thought was important. It was done by Jacob Morgan. He's a lot on LinkedIn. I don't know if anybody follows him, but he did a survey of 14,000 people on LinkedIn, and it was asking leaders how well they're doing with the people side of their leadership in terms of people skills, empathy, communication, all those kind of things. And on average, the leaders responded, I think ranged from 69 to 80%, somewhere in that area. So then they asked employees the same question: how are your leaders doing with the people skills, the soft skills? And the responses were much less. They were in that 35 to 40% range. So there was a pretty significant discrepancy there. And I think it's human nature to some extent that we all sometimes think we're maybe doing better than we actually are. And unless we're receiving feedback and unless we're getting input and interactive, feedback and discussions with our team, we don't always realize that there's room for improvement. And that's why I thought I'd kind of bring that up. Any other thoughts there, Danielle? Or?
No, well said, Douglas.
Okay. So we got 3 or 4 more slides. I wanted to touch a little bit on recruitment versus, or talent acquisition versus talent retention. Both are important, no doubt about it. But I think often I see a tremendous focus on talent acquisition and not so much focus on talent retention. And I think there has to be a stronger balance between the two. And this slide kind of helps explain that. I actually have the opportunity to participate with HR.com. I don't know if anyone recognizes that's an HR platform. Every year they do a state of employee retention survey. And one of the questions they ask is, where is your organization in its approach to talent retention? And it goes from underdeveloped, which is more kind of the start, through beginning, through intermediate, through advanced, and through top notch. And as you can see here in the responses, 23% are considered really good, I guess you'd say. And the majority are kind of not doing as well as they probably could be. A lot of organizations in the intermediate area there are focusing more on compensation and benefit packages to kind of attract and retain talent. Yet there's so many other things that can be done. And if you really want to make advancements in your employee retention success and programs, you have to kind of start to look beyond compensation to really make that impact. And Danielle talked about it with one-on-ones, and I have a few slides here left, but any further thoughts on that, Danielle, before we advance?
No, go ahead. But yeah, that's it's not always
Okay.
about the money.
No. So here's 3 steps that we feel are crucial to help managers. One, providing employee manager diagnostics and assessments to give them the feedback they need to know. If you don't receive that, it's really like you're operating blindly. If you don't have a sense really of what the challenges are, what the frustrations your employees are feeling, how can you take corrective action to make things better? So that's one of the first things. I think education and training play a role. First of all, to help managers understand their role in the retention process, but also to provide some of the basic skills and best practices, I would say, to really that are grounded in the retention drivers that we see. And I think once you understand those, you're in a stronger position. And lastly, I think exercises and processes that can really are on an ongoing basis to help facilitate change and improvement. I think training is good, but I don't believe anyone walked out of a 3-hour training session and was an expert. It takes time, it takes work and effort to really develop these skills, and that's what the exercises and processes are for. Danielle, I know you've got some valuable tools. You might want to add a few thoughts or comments.
No, just to really reiterate that, just because you sat in a seat doesn't mean that you even really understood it. That doesn't happen until you've got the opportunity to really apply it. And that sometimes doesn't happen for weeks or even months after the fact. So
Yeah, thank you.
I'll leave it. Yeah.
All right, so those are just a few summary comments. I think we've talked a lot now, and I'd rather just kind of open it up to the floor. We've got about 6-7 minutes left, I think. So any thoughts on this? Lastly, Danielle has an offer, and I'll let you explain, Danielle, to any participants.
So this is my Engaging Your Employees. It was my book, Engaging Your Employees. And then within the book, there are 12 free engagement strategies. And if you scan that QR code, you can get a free downloadable PDF chart of what those 12 strategies are. But then I also have a toolkit, my employee engagement toolkit that I produced last year. My marketing gal says it's one of a kind. So, and if you email me with the code webinar, I'll get you the toolkit at 15% discount for being a webinar participant. So.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. And likewise, we have a couple of things that could be of value to an organization. One is a complementary diagnostic to help managers understand some of the disconnects. And really, it's designed to provide some insight and clarity and direction on actions you can take to help improve engagement and retention and absenteeism. And the other is it's a structured conversation guide specifically excuse me, we've got a few different ones, but the one I'd recommend is on cultivating a positive employee experience. So if you want to take advantage of that, reach out and we'll be happy to help. So apologies for, I think we ran a little over time, but any thoughts or comments? We'd love to hear them and would value your input.
Mhm. Thank you, Annika. Appreciate that. Annika said in the chat, great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining Annika and Sue. I think Maggie had to check out and Liberty left. So again, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Hopefully it's been helpful and I look forward to chatting again sometime. Thank you.
Sue, did you
Thank
have
you
one
both.
thing you wanted to? Oh, thank you, Sue.
Just-
Appreciate you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say great presentation. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being with us and see you soon.
All right. Enjoy your day, everyone. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You as well.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.